right, we're live. Welcome back to Tom Q's Tech Tips. Today I am really excited to announce some 6-year-old technology that satisfies something that I've been on a quest to do for 6 years. So if I'd only known about it 6 years ago, I wouldn't be making this video. So anyway, as you can see, I have back here a little 6-year-old DJI Ronin SC, and up here I've got another one, and over here on the right and lower left I've got an older than, this is almost a 10-year-old iPhone that I'm using to control one of the gimbals. When I move left, it moves left. When I move right, it moves right. When I pan down, it goes down. When I go up, it goes up. When I'm still, and this is an important feature, believe it or not, when I'm still, it is still. So anyway, I'm going to give a little bit of backstory on this. I'm basically using the DJI Ronin App. So the Ronin App is what's necessary to control the gimbal, and it's controlling the gimbal, not the phone or the app in the gimbal. So that's very important, a very important distinction on some of these things. So just a little bit of backstory here. Switch over to this view. I have been working on this for literally 5 to 6 years. This video at the bottom, I was petitioning the FiLMiC Pro people that are now scattered to the wind. They actually had a clean HDMI out app that also had a remote control that you could remotely control that app from another iOS device. You could only control one of them though. But anyway, you could control it remotely, and so I was petitioning them. I knew that the Switcher Studio app could remotely control the DJI Ohm series gimbals, and so I knew it could be done. And so I was just basically asking them to incorporate that feature. Apparently, not enough people were asking, because that never happened before they disbanded. So anyway, 3+ years ago, as you can see from the second from the bottom, I actually found a way to hack around this, where I was using the FiLMiC Pro app to record and to get the HDMI out, or Movie Pro, and then using, I guess I had to have a remote app for that. I mean, a remote iOS device for that, and another remote iOS device to control Switcher Studio, and trick it into panning and tilting. I did use that for one conference, and the motor on the DJI Ohm 4 gave out on me with one speaker that was doing a lot of moving around. So these iPhone gimbals just don't have a great enough payload to be able to handle this. But anyway, about 2 years ago, maybe a little less, I found the the Hohem iSteady MT2 with the which I'm actually using right now. It's the one that's got my face in the corner here. It has AI tracking. And I saw some videos where they were using an iPhone to the accelerometer in the iPhone to control it, and I was super excited about that. Bought the gimbal, and by the way, I do like it. I do like the AI tracking, but the most perfect way of controlling it didn't work, because once this gimbal is actually turning itself off because it's seeing my hands. Anyway, it would, when I was still, it would drift. The gimbal would drift very slowly, but I just knew that in the conferences where I'm controlling the live stream, I'm controlling multiple cameras, I'm controlling the audio, that there would be times where I might just lose track of the gimbal and it just drifts away from whatever view it's on. So anyway, I kind of ruled that out, but I found 3 other ways to remotely control it, and that was pretty exciting. I discovered that Apple's been working on some technology called DockKit that actually works with the Blackmagic Camera App. Any app that does things according to Apple's protocols can tap into this DockKit technology. I picked up a Belkin auto tracking stand to experiment with, and it works, except that it's always tracking, and you can't, unless you're by the device, you can't turn it off remotely. So, and like when the person who's doing the talking turns their focus on something, the gimbal changes to include what that person's looking at. So anyway, it wasn't going to work for me, but I made this video in my wish list of things for the Blackmagic app, and number 1 was to be able to control that DockKit technology, because it is a potential. But anyway, I actually went as far as purchasing the Insta360 gimbal that supports DockKit, because I had heard from Grok. I was questioning Grok on possibilities, and let me just show you this. One of the things that just made me drool was this thing by Small Rig that lets you control one of the wheels controls panning, one of the wheels controls tilting, and it works along with some of the newer DJI Ronin series gimbals. So apparently this price point is groundbreaking for the industry, but it's way above what I could do. And I was discussing options with Grok, and somehow it gave me the impression that the Insta360 app could control multiple gimbals, multiple Insta360 gimbals remotely. And so anyway, I went ahead and purchased one. It turns out that with that particular gimbal, you have to be running the Insta360 app on the phone that's in the gimbal for remote control to work, which is not something that's going to work for me, because first of all, it doesn't have clean HDMI out, and second of all, you can only control one of the cameras remotely from the iOS device. So I want to be able to use the Blackmagic Camera App, which last year they pulled out. Let's switch over to this. So anyway, the Blackmagic Camera App can remotely control up to 4 iOS devices from one other iOS device. So anyway, let's go ahead and flip that on. Super excited about this. It turns out, so I sent the Insta360 back, and I don't know what happened, but somehow I discovered, let's go ahead and go over to here, like within a day or 2 of me sending that back, I ran across these videos that are like 5 and 6 years old on Force Mobile on the Ronin SC. How to use Force Mobile, and oops, I need to be in that view. So all the videos that I saw about it were like this. So they show somebody doing this, and I'm in the Force Mobile section that they're demonstrating right now. They show somebody moving the remote device up, down, sideways, moving it, and it's amazing, except I already had a gimbal that'll do that. My problem is that when it's still, it drifts. And none of these videos showed it still. It's like everybody wants to show that when you move it, it moves. But nobody wants to show when you stop moving it, it stops. So So anyway, I reached out to DJI support, and the person there was very good, and they assured me that when you stop moving the phone, the remote phone, the gimbal stops. So I went on to eBay, and of course this also works with the newer DJI Ronin series gimbals, but they're in the 354, 55, 56, 50 range. And again, for once a year conference, that's not really in my budget. So out of curiosity, I went on eBay and just like looked up the DJI Ronin SC, which is now a 6-year-old gimbal, and they're selling for, you know, some are more than what I'm showing here, but 90, 100, somewhere in there. So I went ahead and rolled the dice and picked one up. The one I got was about like the top price there, $100 plus about that much shipping. And as you can see, that gimbal is working great. So you can, depending on what settings, and you can watch some of these other videos on where to set these things, the speed, the pan and tilt speed, and then you can actually tap the recenter button and it'll go back to its standard position. I would actually like, if I was going to petition DJI for anything, and I probably will, see this, all this empty space down here. I would love some presets to where it can, with just touching an A, B, a C, or a 1, 2, 3, it will go to a pre-programmed place. It actually has that in the tracking section. I don't know what's going on. Oh yeah, so I can actually touch one of these and it will switch over to one of these numbers here. So I just want that feature over in this other Force Mobile section right here, to where I can just stay right there. Let's go ahead and recenter that, and we'll bring it back down, which I think is this way. So since I'm running it backwards, I have to move this, get used to thinking about this backwards. So anyway, very cool. It does stay perfectly still, which when I reviewed the Hohem gimbal, I didn't know whether this was a Hohem problem or an iOS problem. Well, now I know. It's not an iOS problem. The accelerometers are very accurate. And so something about the Hohem app just doesn't do it properly. I don't know what it is. So, picked up, let's go back over here, picked up a gimbal. It works. You would need a fluid head, basically mount for a tripod to put your iOS device on. And you will need a mount for that phone, for the phone that's in there. You're going to need a phone. I am using, believe it or not here, I am using a almost 10-year-old phone. This is the original. It's got a cracked screen and everything. Anyway, this is the original first generation SE. So I think it was released in 2016. And it works fine. So I'm showing over here, this is a $50 one on eBay, a 32 gig. You do not even need, let's go back over here. Let me just show you this in my iPhone settings, iPhone storage. I am using with basically nothing on this phone except for the DJI Ronin app. I'm using just over 12 gigs. So you could even get a 16 gig version of this phone and it would work. So let's go back over here. Whoops, let's go to DJI. It should automatically connect by itself. We'll tap Create, tap Force Mobile, turn on Force Mobile, and I'm back into controlling that particular gimbal. So one of the things when I was playing around with this that I noticed, so anyway, just one more thing, let's go back over here. You'll need that, and then you'll also need some way to clamp it down to your table or whatever. So between these things, there's 50, there's 65, there's $115. So about $150 more besides the Ronin. So about $250 if you had nothing. And I already had this little pan tilt head. I had all this stuff. So I just needed the Ronin. And as I'm poking around here, I noticed at the little hamburger menu, I back out a little bit and hit this hamburger menu, it had this option to switch. And I'm like, whoa, can this little phone control 2 gimbals? And it turns out that you can. Now I was thinking, you know, I would need two of these little setups, which would not be too much of an investment. 2 of these little setups to be able to control two gimbals. So I'm going to go ahead and hit switch here, and it just disconnected from the Ronin that I'm calling the 12 Pro Max. I'm going to hit connect now, and it's offering me both of the Ronins. So in the settings you can actually name them. Instead of just being called Ronin SC, I've renamed them to something that lets me know when I'm here which one I'm looking at. So I've named them after the camera that's in them. I'm going to connect to the iPhone 13, so connect. When you go in there, you're going to hit create, and then fortunately Force Mobile is right where your finger would be after you hit create. And then I'm actually controlling the other gimbal. So anyway, that is super cool. The phone does seem to get a little bit out of whack, but you can just turn off Force Mobile and turn it back on after you've realigned it to where it works for you. So anyway, ideally I'd have 2 of these setups, 1 for each camera, but this actually kind of works for me because usually I have a little bit of time to change what camera to switch to whatever camera I'm working on. So anyway, I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. It does change. It dramatically changes my wish list. Let's go over to this view right here. So my wish list for the Blackmagic app. My #1 wish was for them to give a little bit more control of the DockKit technology. And my #2 wish was smoother, user-controllable zoom options for whatever camera you're controlling, to where when I go into that, if I hit 2x, I don't get to control how fast it goes from 1x to 2x. And I would love to have some presets like they have presets for focus. So you've got some. So anyway, that's going from my #2 request to my #1 request. So anyway, and I'm just super excited. This is what I've been looking for. Now that I wish I would have found it 6 years ago, but back then the SC was more expensive and I may not have done it. But I can, it's within grasp now. Low budget, panning and tilting of your iPhone, and I hope this is helpful to somebody else. If you have any questions or comments, you know where to leave them. But thank you for tuning in to Tom Q's Tech Tips, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.